We are live.
Hey, I am Old New Dude, and he is
Richard York, Asher's Trueborn son. And this is Wednesday. On
okay.
Wednesday, we talk about random theories.
Yep.
Mother Ryan is here and awake.
I
Glad
hope
to
you're
have you
doing
here.
better.
Supremacy Tully is here. I am here, bro.
Mhm.
Hello, hello, says Tris.
Yay.
Hey, hey, hey. Let's, okay, so I wanted to I was thinking about talking about Cantus, and then I started I started watching Cantus's videos, and um, um, yeah, I'd kind of forgotten that Cantus makes a really really good case that Stannis and Val are the forces behind Mance Raider's good shirts behind Mance Raider's non-burning. So some people seem to think that Melisandre like went behind Stannis' back and that she's the only one that knows and all this. No, 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 no. His argument is Val is actively fighting and refusing to settle down and slicing people's throats and saying that she will behave herself if Stannis will spare Mance, right? That she wants to make a deal with Stannis, that she'll be obedient. And like the next thing you know, she is standing by his side as he burns Mance Raider, behaving perfectly.
Right.
Right. And this is a person who was not behaving. This is a person who was actively fighting and slitting people's throats. And suddenly he trusts her to be standing right there at his side for the rest of his time. Right.
Right.
And she does, and she behaves perfectly well. And in completely unrelated news, Mance Raider doesn't get burned. He's like, is that what's going on, or is this exactly what it looks like, which is that Mance Raider has been spared because Val and Stannis have worked together to spare Mance Raider, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely true, right? So.
Yeah.
Conga? Or what?
Mhm.
Karinga. I don't know what the Karinga means.
Either.
Core sounds like heart, but I don't know. And it's a Latin-based language, so it's fine. Anyway.
You got me.
Anyway, so yeah, that I'd forgotten. I know I've watched Cantus's videos before, so but yeah, I'd forgotten that it was that blatantly clear in the text that Val and Stannis are the ones that have decided to spare Mance Raider, not
Well, you
Melisandre working
also
behind
have
his back.
after Stannis has left and Mance has left.
Well, and Stannis is
This is
very.
White.
Stannis says that he was going. He strongly implies that he was going to keep Val at his side as he went to Winterfell,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because he says, well, if I agree to leave the Wildlings, then it becomes your job to take care of Val, which implies that he was going to take Val to Winterfell,
Okay.
right? Which is interesting as well, right? That's the implication. Now,
Mm-hmm.
why does he think he needs Val? Why does he think he needs to? Well, Cantus thinks that what's actually going on there is that by putting Val in a crown and putting Val at his side as the Wildlings are paying homage, that they can tell themselves, we're not bending the knee to any of those, to the southern king.
Right.
We're bending the knee to Val. And he keeps referring to her as the Wildling princess. So he at least believes that that's what's happened here, right? That the Wildlings consider themselves to have been swearing their allegiance not to Stannis but to Val.
Mm-hmm. Well, stop thinking about this, okay? Wildling princess. Those words could be separate
Mm-hmm.
and together, one or the other, right? She's a princess
Well, yeah. Of course, we have our own theory as to why Val is the wildling princess, obviously, right? And
That's
why
what
she's an appropriate heir to Winterfell, and why marrying her to someone and putting them in charge of Winterfell makes sense, and all of that, right? So
she
we have
is.
our own theory.
She is with the wildling, and separately, she's a princess.
See, Triple
Okay,
Targaryen's episode 7.
right. I mean, yeah, I can see. And then Val gets left. Stannis leaves. Mance leaves, and then Stannis's wife comes to Winterfell, and doesn't she come unexpectedly, or wasn't supposed to? She was supposed to stay
Yeah,
at
he makes some comment about how I expected you to stay I expected you to stay at the
right.
over there.
Um,
We're not going to be able to give you any better quarters than you already had, and that sort of thing, right?
yeah, and then that's when the talks of that she needs to uh, uh, find a suitable husband, because Stannis has already married Val to Winterfell. Whoever marries Val will be the next Lord of Winterfell. And then our opinion on it is Val is Stark.
Appropriate heir
Uh,
to Winterfell.
yeah, she is the firstborn of the Stark Targaryen babies. Uh, and then that gets picked back up after they leave with Stannis' wife, and then a couple of nights, one in particular. Hey, Kirsty.
What we're talking about Cantus, and Cantus, Kirsty, and Cantus has pointed out that he has a video on Val where he says that Val is much more important than most people realize, and that Val and Stannis were the ones that worked together to spare Mance Raider. That it's actually fairly clear in the text that Val is completely uncontrollable, trying to escape, slitting people's throats, and has specifically said that if Mance Raider is spared, she'll behave. And then the next thing you know, Stannis is trusting her in ceremonies to stand at his side, and she is behaving perfectly well. And Mance is quote being burned, right? And so his point is, it's very clear that Val and Stannis are both in on the fact that that is not Mance Raider being burned, because Stannis suddenly can trust Val to behave, and Val is behaving, and that means that they have in fact made the very deal they told us they were going to make.
Right.
Um, and yeah, he's just right. I mean, but in addition, he points out that the wildlings are arguably swearing their fealty to the person that Stannis keeps calling the wildling princess. That he's got her in a crown as they're kneeling and swearing homage and standing right with him. And when Jon convinces him to leave the wildlings, he says that means you're going to have to take care of Val now, implying that he thought that he needed Val with him leading the wildlings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while Jon keeps saying, she's not the wildling princess, Stannis is sure acting like he really thinks that she's the wildling princess, and that he's in fact set it up such that the wildlings have in fact sworn their allegiance not to him but to Val. And
Right, because he gives them the ultimate ultimatum. All right, stay north of the wall and die, whether it's from the weather or the others, or starvation, die, or bend the knee. But he's given them a figure to bend the knee to. That's not. I agree with you. That's not him. They're not bending the knee to him. He's letting them save face by bending the knee, basically to Val.
yeah,
Even though their knees don't bend, but I mean, would you rather eat half of a rotten apple, or the good side of a half rotten apple, or nothing at all?
or an onion. There's the whole discussion of half-rotted onion, and the fact that we see that they just cut out the anyway. The manifesto. So anyway, I thought maybe we would talk a little bit about the. Preston's video on Sunday. What he did was he went through all of Patchface, and he said actually everything Patchface talks about is what's going on in the book the book that it's in, and usually it's whatever George was just writing about. And he talked through how you would, if you interpret it that way, this is Patchface's commentary on what else is going on in the book and what else is going on in that specific book and what else is going on that George has been writing about recently and so forth. Then actually everything's really straightforward. I mean, with the caveat that we've already said that he's interpreting things as he has visions in the water, and so if he sees crows feasting, he's going to think of them as crabs feasting, for example, right? So if he sees crows feasting on the dead, he's going to talk about crabs feasting on the dead and so forth. He's going to reimagine as you would see these events in the underwater. But when you do that, they're all really straightforward. and anyway, that's his argument, and I mean, I would quibble with him as to which event in the specific book George is talking about, and like the shadows come to dance. I think it's about the others rather than the shadow babies. But he's like, this is Clash. This is a book about shadow babies. This is the shadow babies. I'm like, yeah, but it's also a book about the others coming, and shadow babies don't really stay, but maybe it is a clue that they somehow do, and that they're going to have some effect later on. But either way, right? So there is some ambiguity, but yeah, it's basically that's right. That it's what's going on, and it's looking in the water. And we've talked about that before. We'd found somebody else who I can't remember who it was, but we found somebody else online that had said that, and we'd said that we thought that was the best interpretation. That it's just basically his version of looking in the flames, but he has to look in the water.
Right.
Like I said, we basically already said essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
So, do we want to go through a little bit of Cantus's stuff?
Sure.
Wasn't Preston saying most of Patrick's prophecy songs are irrelevant to me? Well, that's his old take, is that prophecy is bunk and so forth. But his new take is it's just a description of what George is writing about that's going on in that same book and what George is working on there. And I think that's mostly right. Like I said, I quibble a little bit. He's like, this is very straightforward. This is this thing, and I'm like, yeah, it could also be this other thing, but it's basically correct. It's that they're not really. Yes, his take in the past has always been that prophecy is bunk, and that George believes that prophecy is bunk, and that's not what these books are about. These books are about the basically Newcomb's paradox, the paradox of free will versus omniscience, and can you have free will in a world where people have omniscience and so forth, and what does that mean? That's really what George is doing, not prophecies are bunk, as Preston used to always say. And I think Preston has come to realize that that's not what George is doing.
Well, I mean, Hatchface's vision's has to pay off eventually.
No, he's arguing that they already do. That each one of them is already explained in that specific book.
Right. But you're saying mostly it happens right before what we read Patchface.
Or right afterward, or somewhere else within that same book.
Yeah.
So if his red wedding prophecy happens in I think it happens shortly after he gives his red wedding prophecy, right? And the arguably Shadow Baby's prophecy is in the beginning of Clash, and you could argue that it's a book about Shadow Babies. I would say it's also a book about the others, and
right. But eventually, the looking in the flames, looking in the water, or whatever, eventually it's going to get to the long night.
Kirsty
and
says that the under the sea with the blue-green bubbles ties to volcanoes under the sea. I don't remember exactly what Preston said with that one. I think he maybe blew off the colors as being what you see when you're looking under the sea. But um, but um, yeah, I don't know. I do think that the it rains up is probably a comment on Ash. Um,
the
there's
blue
like a
green, I think, is a play on the dragon glass. The other colors that are important as far as if you got
he didn't
undersea
say that. I
volcanoes.
googled it. Fair enough. No, I'm not claiming he said that it ties to that. I'm saying he kind of blew off the colors as being more about the fact that he's looking through the water. Than he kind of blew off the colors. It's not important, essentially, right? I'm not saying that they are or they aren't. I don't know. I, but his argument that George is basically writing about Patchface seeing as much across space as across time, and it's not really much in the future. It's usually something that's going to happen in that same book. Is basically right. Forgot to wish my family happy Earth Day. Oh yeah, oh, thanks. Happy Earth Day.
Hey,
Yeah, totally forgot.
yeah,
Um,
the prophecies had. I mean, telling us what's happening to happen 2 chapters before or what happens 2 chapters after isn't that big of a deal, right?
yeah,
We
and that's
didn't need to
kind of
go
his
to
point.
high
That
heart.
they're actually straightforward. They're showing us that if they paid attention to Patchface, it's
Mhm.
really clear what he's saying, and he's saying things that are going on right now. Then that might be important to them, right?
Well,
That's
I'm
kind of what he's
saying
saying.
giving us Patchface's visions is giving the reader time to puzzle out just what the hell Patchface is talking about, how he talks, and how to interpret
Oh, and then
his
it'll happen in
words.
the future books. So if you realize that he's telling you what's about to happen in the current book, then you'll notice he's telling you what's about to happen in the current book.
Right,
Right,
and
right,
you
right,
can
right. That's
figure
that's
out
that's a good
how
point.
to read what Patchface
Yeah,
says,
you want
and
them to
then
be straightforward so that the reader can see that that's what you're doing. So that in the
right.
next book, the reader can see that that's what you're doing. So now they can realize he's telling you what's going to happen in this book. Right? Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. In fact, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, which on that, if the I'm assuming Winds of Winter that's when the long night, the others fall at the end of the book. And you got Driven Spring is all the humans scrambling around trying to figure out who's going to lead what and all and fighting over the Iron Throne. So in Winds of Winter, if we get a patch face vision, then it should relate to who's going to win the long night. And if we paid attention and if we figured out how to interpret Patchface's words, as the reader, should be able to take that and go, okay, that's who's going to win the long night, the battle for dawn, that type of
Yeah, and
thing.
and the fact that
That
they're
would
more
be
straightforward in the first, in the second and third book, and a little bit less straightforward in the fifth book, is because you do want to start to get a little more ambiguous as you go. So that you want to establish that it's really easy to understand this guy. He's telling you exactly what's happening in this book. He's telling you what's going to about to happen in this book. You establish that in the first two books, right? Or second and third book, because he doesn't get there till the second book, but. Um,
right.
so then,
Well, I mean,
so
if you
then
stop
you
other
go
people
a
that
little more ambiguous in the fifth book. Still, basically, reasonably close. People can start to get some confidence. Right? You don't want to completely shake things, right? You want to make sure that people still understand, but you give yourself a little more wiggle room as you go as well, make things a little more complicated, and then you're able to then put some things in the what will be the sixth book and so forth, and yeah, something along those lines, absolutely.
right. Well, something about the other people that have predictions and stuff like that in the books. You got the Ghost of High Heart, Melisandre, Makoro. Um, the the Ghost of High Heart is crazy as all get out, but she still uses um, English, the common tongue,
Mm.
um, and basically tells you everything you need to know to figure out what she's talking about.
Yeah, and she's pretty straightforward, giving, and then most of them are about deaths of kings and that's really and things related to that, and yeah,
right. And then with Melisandre, you get the Azor High all the time, um, and then
well, and she
with
tells you in advance what's going to happen with two different, which Cantus definitely talks about in his videos, but we also pointed it out when we were going through. She tells you what's happening with in two different letters before the letters arrive, right? She knows exactly what they're going to say.
Mhm.
And Candace points out that John asks her a bunch of questions, and she says, "Look to the skies, and you'll have your answers." And literally every question that he asks is answered in the pink letter. So,
Right,
which is interesting.
you're on the page that she basically wrote it with help.
No, I don't think so.
Who's
I think Brian Marsh edited the pink letter.
okay? I could have swore it was. I might be misremembering or
No,
thinking of
I
somebody
think
else.
so. Um,
Right.
the so I'd come up with that when I was listening to Davos Fingers go through that chapter,
Mm-hmm.
and because they had said something that I thought was implying that it was written in Castle Black, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, why would you show all these seals and then show this smudge unless somebody had opened it and resealed it, meaning that it's been edited, it's been changed and written in Castle Black, and the version we see is written in Castle Black with some of the information in the original, right?
Right.
And then later on, I heard them talking, and they seemed like they hadn't come to any conclusion whatsoever. And I was like, that was kind of weird. And then the Order of the Green had put out a video right after that.
That's why they're not as big as we are. I mean,
The Order of the Green had put a video right after that saying,
don't tell them I said that.
definitely way bigger than us, absolutely. But the Order of the Green had put out a video saying that it was written by Bowen Marsh. And I was like, yeah, I'd already come to that conclusion that was right. And watched the video, and I was like, yeah.
You didn't have a platform to say what you were thinking, and then you think it, and then a month,
Somebody
2 months,
else does a great job of illustrating out the whole thing. Yeah.
You're like, that's what
That's
I was
fine.
thinking. No one's gonna believe you.
Yeah.
That you
Well,
it.
when I've left comments on videos about how Dorcas is Varys, and people are like, that's my theory. Lots of people have probably figured that out. Sea anemones and clownfish share a symbiotic relationship. Clownfish's species contain ammonia and act as nutrients to fertilize anemone, helping grow and reproduce. An anemone gives shelter protection for clownfish. Also, all clownfish are born male. The largest one becomes female.
Okay.
So clownfish being
saying that word, anemone.
Yeah. Many moments. Many moments. Okay. Anyway, where were we?
I think
So anyway, I thought we'd go through some of Cantus's stuff. I definitely like Cantus's stuff. I think some of it's a little bit more tinfoily than others, and that's true of our stuff.
I am here all day long for some tinfoil.
It's from somebody who's really done a good job of observing things and making logical inferences that I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right?
Now,
this is a smart dude who's done some good work on
as much
this.
as we love it, we do not do a lot of tinfoil on here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right. So some of his stuff, it's a little tinfoily, like specifically, he's going to the one that I think is probably his version of the pink letter is probably one of the more tinfoily versions, right? Which is that Mance is glamored as Ramsay writing the pink letter.
We just now are famous from Australia to Brazil.
Oh, okay. Yes, of course.
Throwing some tinfoil in here will just throw us over the top, and it'll be hundreds of thousands of views.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right.
I just want to point out, I meant I thought about it last time, and I used to say it in my videos. I don't care if you like, I don't care if you subscribe, just leave a comment. I've been watching videos and they got these pop-ups at the very end of it and all this stuff. But I know that's how they get the word out. And then if they get to enough people, then there's uh, ad revenue or YouTube gives you money. I don't know. I don't have any clue about that.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have 1,000
We don't do
subscribers
that.
to get monetized.
We always say is y'all have a good day. Bye, Richard, and then click. That's it. I mean, I still to this day, as much as I joke,
You don't
I
care if
don't
people
care
like
if
or
you like. I
subscribe.
don't care if you subscribe.
You
Just
kind of like
talk,
people who
leave
comment.
a comment. I mean, that's it. I mean, I'm here to have
Anyway,
a conversation with. I mean, we barely know each other. We've seen each other once in real life, which was freaky because of how tall and in shape you are. But um, I mean, we have good banter on here. I think you're the encyclopedia, and I'm the the gum stuck on the bottom of your shoe, but kind of like the odd couple.
that's well, you're doing a good job of your goal of making people chuckle. So, and at least you're
Yeah,
making me chuckle.
yeah. That's what I'm here for. But yeah, go ahead. Let's start with some interesting.
All right, so I was thinking the Manifesto, Volume 1, Chapter 1. This is cantus.wordpress.com. Cantus also has 4 videos on YouTube that are, as we said, are very, very good. They're just him talking. Like, one of them is like he's in the car driving, and you can hear all the road noise. It's just fine. I can hear what he says. That's what matters. Anyway, so I like his ideas. It doesn't matter if they're presented like when he gets a spare chance during a commute or something. That's fine by me.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yep. The Manifesto, Volume 1, Chapter 1. The map is not the land. Jon Snow, Dance of Dragons. There's substantial evidence that Stannis will employ a brilliant set of tactics to brutally defeat the Freyfolk, right? And this is his most famous post, right? The Nightline Theory, right?
Right.
Lots of people refer to Cantus and the Nightline Theory. Brutally defeat the Frey forces that are advancing on his position at Dance with Dragons. Specifically, Stannis has been preparing to cleverly divert the Freys into a trap of colossal proportions, implement a devastating surprise, and maximize the shock and awe of his attack. What's so great is that all of the arguments in favor of this theory are so grounded in readily available material and interpretations. No extreme mental gymnastics are required. This is an unabashedly long essay. Hello, deck of cards. Good to have you here. If you only want a quick version, you can read the 5-minute version instead. The reason for the length is because this is intended to be an all-inclusive resource for understanding the Nightline Theory. Huh. Maybe we should go the 5-minute version.
Yeah, maybe.
It's pretty long.
Yeah.
But as we said, he does have some great ideas. But let's go ahead and do the 5-minute version. The Nightline Theory in a nutshell. Stannis used to be the master of ships. This means he dealt with maritime law, crime, etc. He's called upon at least once to deal with people who repeatedly used a trick to purposely wreck ships. They would extinguish the fire from a known good beacon and erect a false beacon somewhere else. This would cause ships to crash because they were lured into rocks or something like that. Stannis is going to use this trick against the Freys. Stannis is currently stuck at a village in the woods between 2 lakes. His men have been carefully digging holes around the island in one of the lakes. He knows that the Freys will approach a certain way, expecting to use a narrow land bridge to access the village between the lakes. However, Stannis will eliminate the watchtower beacon fire and raise the false beacon atop the island in the lake. Confused and in a blizzard, the Freys will unwittingly traverse the lake and into the ice fishing holes. At that moment, Stannis will draw his sword Lightbringer and blind the approaching army, maximizing the trap effectiveness and signaling the rest of his men. Catapults lob stones into the lake, shattering the ice and drowning many. Survivors are killed along the shores by men in waiting, and Northmen move quickly to secure the Frey baggage train. That's his 5-minute version. I don't know if that's 5 minutes. It's like it's a lot shorter, actually.
Yeah, I was like,
And wood anemones are star-shaped, tied to the myth of Adonis' death. His blood mingled with Aphrodite's, his lover, tears and anemone, whatever, to preserve his memory and greet new life in the spring. All right. Sorry for my tripping over words there.
yep. Now the thing is the holes in the lake, they have to be careful that they don't freeze back up in a way that the plan will be null and void.
Yeah, this probably wouldn't really work very well in the real world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm Forgive me for
Not
putting logic
as
in the book.
described. Not as described, right? Because the problem is that when you're ice fishing, it actually freezes really quickly, and so you don't really wind up with Swiss cheese. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's questionable whether it would actually work quite as well as
Yeah, I know. It's like me watching Marvel and try to put logic in a Marvel
yeah,
movie. I mean, you
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
kind of throw away disbelief.
It's
If
right, right,
you're
right, right. It's clear that he's setting that up.
yeah, if you're gonna nitpick a Song of Ice and Fire, you probably shouldn't read a Song of Ice and Fire. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Like, does George know that? How does George really know whether people would bite on coins? Because probably not. That's just more of a Bugs Bunny thing, right?
Hmm.
uh, anyway,
I wonder
there's
what
things like that, right?
now did they do that in well, see, the coins you see in the show aren't the coins that are in the book,
Well, that's my
especially
point. In the
during
book, they're
Dark Day.
constantly biting the coins to indicate whether they're to test whether they're real. And George probably
And then
got that
also
from like
the
Bugs Bunny cartoons, but
yeah.
but whether that was ever really much of a thing is another question, right? And
Well, I
there's
mean,
lots of things like that where
yeah.
it's in pop culture that things work this way where they really don't.
Mhm.
Um, George is so good with distances.
Now, in
Although
the
I
show,
do wonder if some of that is a reference to the Book of the New Sun. But anyway, go on.
you see perfectly minted with the ridges around it like a quarter, but in the books they're actually squished, they're weighed, and then stamped, and then have rough edges all the way around it. And because we got the guy with the seashells that takes out Dunk gets onto his squire because you can see where someone has clipped the overflow from the stamp, and that one's going to have to be minted down and then recast or whatever. So the coins in the show and coins in the book don't look the same.
Yeah, right. That's probably true. Um,
It is because I said it. I'm just kidding.
yeah, I agree. So where's some of his other stuff? Well, let's look at Mance Raider category. Mance Raider. Okay, Mance Raider.
The lighthouse theory on the lake reminds me of Clive Owen, the King Arthur, where you had the guy with the big hammer, and they got their bows, and they're making the people they were spread out on the frozen lake, and they kept making them kind of just work their way toward the center because they kept shooting at the outskirts, and the guy just went out with his hammer and smashed the lake, and it just kind of split from there, and all the guys fell in.
um, Kirsty says off topic again. Sorry, and hey, there's no off topic on Wednesdays. What do you guys make of patch face? Patch faces, Merwise wear enemies in their hair and weave gowns of silver seaweed. So I think that faster for the show to mass produce round homogeneous coins. Yeah, that's probably true. Probably true deck of cards. So Kirsty, I think that it really is just about the hairnet, and so the hairnet is made of silver and it's woven, um, and and he's really just focused on that. And he probably intended Sansa's gown to match when he was making that one because that's actually in Clash, and she gets the hairnet at the end of Clash, right? And so it's about the hairnet, and it probably means that he intended her to have like some sort of bridesmaids gowns at the purple wedding, and that everybody was going to be wearing silver because he was thinking about making them all be bridesmaids with silver. That's my guess, and that he wanted the hairnet to match their gowns. That's what I'm guessing it is. I think he's referring to the others. Okay, that's interesting.
All right. Well, I mean, if the theory of it not happening in the same book, the silver dress, could that be about a future wedding?
Well, that's what I'm saying is I believe he thought that the purple wedding was gonna involve Sansa wearing silver. I think that's the implication there. But then he changed his mind when he got to the third book. But that's
Hey,
interesting
what was
concept, Kirsty. How do we
what
interpret
color
it that way?
what color was Danny wearing at her wedding?
I want to say that it was. That's a good question. I was thinking that it sounded like a Stark wedding. And she was wearing pearls and things, but uh,
Hmm.
let's see, dance wedding.
The
Oh, I
it's
should have
it's
gone with Daenerys.
it's the Mare Wise that have stuff. I was thinking the Dothraki with their bells in their hair, but it's just the males, not the females, right? So never mind. I
Well,
think I
but
worked.
Danny does go against that, right?
Yeah.
So, preparation for
Oh,
wedding.
oh, yeah.
If we knew the wedding was the offering, what choice is a wedding or a war? A wedding might serve. Why not? Yeah, wedding
Okay. I'm
preparations getting set up with Splash. I'd almost forgotten. Perhaps I wanted to forget. And after them, I'm to dine with Hisdar. Bring the green took her, the silk one fringed with mirror slice. Oh, but she doesn't wear that. The wedding garb is fraught with meaning. The bride is dressed in dark red, and okay, which would represent Targaryens, with a tokar of white silk fringed with pearls.
okay.
So yeah, so she's wearing Targaryen's dark colors.
Okay.
Anyway, all right.
Again,
I
we're
thought that was
correct.
white and pearls. I thought there was white and pearls. I forgot there's
For some
also
reason,
red.
I was thinking silver for something.
It's also red. Anyway, and then you could open the fire. Resnack says you could open the fire pits and be your wedding gift to Hisdar and to your loving people. And she says after when Hisdar will be king, let him reopen the fighting pits. Uh, anyway, all right. Sorry, I was reading too much of the wedding. All right, nobody wants that. Um, so we mentioned that the pink letter finally solved. We promised tinfoil. Let's try and get to some of this tinfoil here.
There you go.
You know something, Udovich? I think this just might be my masterpiece. Sorry. The end of John's final chapter in His Dragons leaves the readers mystified on several fronts. Obviously, the mystery behind John's death is foremost among them. However, let's analyze one of the other conundrums introduced by this chapter. Why are the wildlings so eager to go to war for Jon Snow? Some readers may have concluded that this topic was unimportant, unanswerable, or some combination thereof. Others might have concluded that explanation is already known, provided by the text explicitly or otherwise. Obviously, wouldn't be wasting your time with the inquiry if I thought the real answer was any of those things. This short essay is an effort to convince you of the following. The wildlings rally to Jon's cause because of readily recognizable wildling folklore found in both the Pink Letter and Jon's statements at the Shield Hall. Folklore that is only understood by wildlings. Not only does Jon know this, but he himself knows who wrote the Pink Letter. With that in mind, I want to start by proving as best as possible that the explanation behind why the wildlings rallied to Jon's cause is of huge consequence. A strange motive. Let's start with the important excerpt, essentially encapsulating the entire wildling reaction to Jon's declaration against Ramsay and his call for supporters. No, I ride south. Then Jon read the letter that Ramsay Snow had written. The Shield Hall went mad. What madness is this? Oh, sorry. Everybody began to shout at once. They leapt to their feet, shaking fists. So much for the calming power of comfortable benches. Swords were brandished, axes smashed against shields. Jon Snow looked determined. The Giant's Bane sounded his horn once more, twice as long and twice as loud as the first time. The Night's Watch takes no part in the wars of the Seven Kingdoms, Jon reminded them when some semblance of quiet had returned. It is not for us to oppose the bastard of Bolton, to avenge Stannis Baratheon, to defend his widow and his daughter. This creature who makes cloaks from the skins of women has sworn to cut my heart out, and I mean to make him answer for those words. But I will not ask my brothers to forswear their vows. The Night's Watch will make for Hardhome. I ride to Winterfell alone. Unless, John paused. Is there any man here who will come stand with me? War was all he could have hoped for. The tumult so loud that old the two old shields tumbled from the walls. Soren Shieldbreaker was on his feet, the Wanderer as well. Torg the Tall, Brog, Harl the Huntsman, and Harl the Handsome both. Egon Oldfather, Blind Doss, even the Great Walrus. I have my swords, thought Jon Snow, and we are coming for you, bastard. This is the extent of the motive Jon provides for his decision to break his vows and march south against Ramsay. I guess the first thing to ask is Jon's stated motive reasonable and or sufficient? If you parse Jon's words carefully, you'll notice that Jon's stated motive has nothing to do with Stannis, Mance, Arya, or anyone else. In particular, there are two observations. Jon specifically cites Ramsay's taunts and insults as his motive for acting against the Boltons. He specifically denies all other reasons as being his stated motivation. It's our first sign that something is out of place regarding Jon's performance at the Shield Hall. Jon's entire life has been nothing but taunts and threats about his bastard heritage, being a turncloak, warg, coward, or worse. Ever since Jon's encounter with Tyrion at Winterfell in the Game of Thrones, Jon has more or less been incredibly resistant to being goaded purely on the basis of ad hominem or taunts. The even more strange element is that Jon has several much more valid reasons for acting against the Boltons, but either fails to mention them or outright denies them as being factors in his decision-making. Therefore, any reasonable person should be able to draw the following conclusions. Jon's stated reason for acting against the Boltons is entirely uncharacteristic. Superficially, it makes no sense that Jon would base his declaration of war against the Boltons on Jon's newly enfeebled ego, instead of any of the other very valid reasons for wanting to act against the Boltons. The reason I keep italicizing stated reason and working towards the hypothesis that Jon's stated reason is ludicrous is because once you incorporate this perspective into your understanding of Jon's final chapters, a new and more useful question appears. Despite being obviously out of character for Jon, is it possible that Jon's stated motive for attacking the Boltons is entirely deliberate, a calculated effort to generate a particular response from his audience? A wildly legend that begins with an insult. The above question fundamentally challenges the assumption that Jon's Shield Hall performance is derived from some sort of uncontrolled rage or wildness. The question instead suggests the hypothesis that Jon's superficially primitive motive is a gambit of sorts. At the very least, this is an idea worth exploring. Our first stop in evaluating this new perspective is by returning to the question that began this short essay. Why are the wildlings so eager to go to war for Jon Snow? Revisiting this dilemma with the newfound possibility that Jon's stated feels before real's motive is entirely calculated, we can reframe the question in a much more potent, insightful manner. Why would anyone, especially wildlings, really care to get involved in a clash between a guy at Winterfell whose bride was taken and another who felt insulted? Rephrasing the question this way, I may have given the game away early. The question is different because we're no longer concerned with Jon's motives or internal thoughts. Now we're exploring the wildlings to understand their motives and why they immediately and unquestioningly join Jon's cause against the Boltons. In particular, we're looking for an explanation for why Jon's seemingly absurd motive, anger at being dishonored and or slandered by Ramsay, would resonate so well with the wildlings. Bael's vow. Now I can reveal the true significance of Jon's performance at the Shield Hall, why the wildlings are thrilled at the idea of joining Jon, aiding him in his quest to avenge being insulted by the true-born Lord of Winterfell, who says his bride has been stolen. It's because this whole sordid drama apes the tale of Bael the Bard almost perfectly. Observe what, according to legend, was the original reason Bael the Bard left for Winterfell. That's all where you're standing too, Ygritte said. The Stark in Winterfell wanted Bael's head, but never could take him, and the taste of failure galled him. One day, in his bitterness, he called Bael a craven who preyed only on the weak. When word of that got back, Bael vowed to teach the Lord a lesson. So he scaled the wall, skipped down the King's Road, and walked into Winterfell one winter's night with harp in hand, naming himself Sigurd of Skagos. Sigurd means deceiver in the old tongue that the first men spoke, and the giants still speak. As you can see, Bael decided to exact revenge on the Lord of Winterfell purely on the basis of being insulted. While the exact details are different between Jon's circumstances and Bael's story, the notion that both want to take revenge on the Lord of Winterfell merely for being insulted is a pretty strong parallel. At the very least, the legend normalizes, elevates even, the idea of a heroic figure who takes action just on the basis of being insulted alone. That's obviously not the only parallel. Now, as it happened, the winter roses had only then come into bloom, and no flower is so rare nor precious. So the Stark sent to his glass gardens and commanded the most beautiful of the winter roses be plucked for the singer's payment. And so it was done. But when morning came, the singer had vanished, and so had Lord Brandon's maiden daughter. Her bed they found empty, but for the pale blue rose that Bale had left on the pillow where her head had lain. The whole matter of "I want my bride back" almost unmistakably reverberates with parallels to Bale the Bard's story. Any wildling would see how stealing a Stark bride, Reed Maid, from Winterfell is a direct copy from the Bale legend. But going further, Mance, Mance was known to play the harp or lute, and openly admitted to being inspired by Bale's story. According to Egret, every wildling knows the tales of Bale the Bard. "Bale the Bard made it," said Egret. "He was king beyond the wall a long time back. All the free folk know his songs. It might be you don't sing them in the south." Thus, you have to suspect the wildlings would have noticed the parallels to Bale's exploit from the Pink Letter because they're pretty overt to the trained eye. It also helps that there are further elements of the letter which are congruent or possibly allusions to the Bale legend. The cloak of skin from the Spearwives is reminiscent of the cloak of skin made from the bastard son of Bale by a Stark bannerman in the tale. The cold cage from Mance Rayder, where all the North can see him, is similar to the crypts of Winterfell that Bale's stories say he hid. This is far from the first time I've ever talked about Mance's utilization of the Bale legend beyond as an anagram and general template for his Winterfell infiltration. In Showdown in the Crypts, I articulated how Bale's story is the template Mance uses for his plan, outlining specific ways in which he invokes it. In a recent post, I also explained how the Bale legend helps Mance coordinate with the Spearwives, because everyone knows the legend so well already. But it wasn't until very recently that it finally occurred to me. Even the wildlings at the Wall know the story of Bale the Bard, and might have decidedly unique reactions to noticing its presence in the Pink Letter and Jon's stated reaction. Undiscovered country. Once you consider the likelihood that the wildlings and the Shield Hall are viewing the Pink Letter through the lens of the Song of the Winter Rose, there are two more parallels that readily emerge in the context of reading the letter as opposed to actually being in Winterfell like Mance and the Spearwives. Parallels that I don't think have been previously accounted for. Lord Brandon had no other children. At his behest, the Black Crows flew forth from their castles in the hundreds, but nowhere could they find any sign of Bale or this maid. For most a year they searched, till the Lord lost heart and took to his bed, and it seemed as though the line of Starks was at its end. But one night, as he lay waiting to die, Lord Brandon heard a child's cry. He followed the sound and found his daughter back in her bedchamber, asleep with a babe at her breast. The two parallels are clear. The Stark Lord from the legend had no other Stark children. The missing Stark girl was the last of the line, and per the legends, this last of the Starks girl was kidnapped by a wildling raider, only to return later with a wildling bastard in tow. This is a total match with the fact that Arya Stark is the last known Stark, meeting that element of the story. Well, this is obviously relevant to Mance and the Spearwives of Winterfell too. What I'm really pointing out is that this similarity would help people far away and not directly involved see another parallel to the tales. Finally, there is the simple, obvious fact that Jon's declaration of his intent to leave Castle Black is consistent with the idea of black crows flying forth in search of Bale and his maid. All told, the Shield Hall performance, the Pink Letter, and its various implications all prominently recall the exploits of Bale the Bard. There's another reason the Bale's legend is incredibly important, one that may be the driving factor wildling involvement in northern affairs. The tale of Bale the Bard sets the tone for a wildling Stark unification, one that already resonates with wildlings because they heard about the story since they were children. It's the idea that there would be a wildling child as heir to Winterfell, also just like the story of Bale. Exploring these deeper implications is something I'm working on in a follow-up essay. Anyway, what Jon knows. I think this essay has made a compelling case that the similarities to Bale the Bard's story are a likely and powerful influence on the wildling's seemingly uncritical and enthusiastic choice to march with Jon against the Boltons. But that still doesn't answer a certain question. Why? Why in seven hells would the wildlings want to go fight Bolton? This question has a discrete answer that you may have already surmised. I plan on answering it in a roundabout fashion because I'm proving something far greater at the same time. Returning to Jon's final chapter in Dance of Dragons, there's an incriminating issue. Why does Jon abruptly stop thinking or talking about Arya halfway through the last chapter? There's no more mention of Arya at all after Jon tells Tormund they need to switch the plan. I won't say you're wrong. What do you mean to do, Crow? Jon flexed the fingers of his sword hand. The Night's Watch takes no part. He closed his fist and opened it again. She proposes nothing less than treason. He thought of Robb with snowflakes melting in his hair. Kill the boy and let the man be born. He thought of Bran clambering up the tower wall, agile as a monkey, of Rickon's breathless laughter, of Sansa brushing out Lady's coat and singing to herself, "You know nothing, Jon Snow." He thought of Arya, her hair as tangled as a bird's nest. I made him a warm cloak from the skins of the 6 whores who came with him to Winterfell. I want my bride back. I want my bride back. I want my bride back. I think we'd best change the plan, Jon Snow said. Consider, the pink letter obviously indicates Arya escaped, yet Jon spares not a single thought about rescuing her from wherever she might be. Nor does Jon even think about her when he ruminates to himself that he has his swords and it's coming from Ramsay. But far and away the worst of all, after the shield hall, Jon thinks to himself, if she, Melisandre, could see a raven in a storm, she can find Ramsay Snow for me. Why wouldn't he instead be more concerned about finding his sister? You know, it's awfully fucking convenient that the last time Jon thinks about Arya is while ruminating on the pink letter. It doesn't stop.
It's just Jon. Sorry, I'm losing my headset. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. That's why I said yeah. That's why I said okay. Anyway, who else does Jon speak or think about again after that excerpt? Mance fucking Raider. It's always bothered me that neither character is thought about again by Jon. It's always bothered me that the Wildlings never asked about Mance Raider, but now I see it. The reason that Jon doesn't think about Arya is the same reason the Wildlings don't ask about Mance. They all know, or more accurately think, that Arya and Mance are in the crypts under Winterfell. The reason this idea never occurred to me before is because I never realized that a subtle reference to Bale's story would be in the letter. That Mance's interest in the legend only had applicability for himself and Spear Eyes. I was wrong. Everyone was wrong. Thus, my final assertion is this. After Jon ruminated on Arya and the pink letter, he realized that the letter echoes of Bale with Bard and concluded that Mance and Arya must be underneath the castle. This is the whole goddamn reason he chose to read the letter at the Shield Hall instead of paraphrasing, because he knew the Wildlings would get it too. It's also the reason Jon gave such a weird reason for his mission, because he was helping convey the parallel to the tale, more importantly, that he knew it. Thus, his march to Winterfell is essentially a partial reenactment of Bale's legend, hopefully to rescue Mance and Arya from the crypts. The genius of all this is that Jon communicates Mance's survival and location wordlessly to the Wildlings. This means that when the Wildlings went crazy after Jon read the letter, it was because they believed that Mance was both alive, safe, with a Stark girl, and safely hidden in Winterfell. All their wildest dreams are coming true, it seemed. I'll admit that this theory just wrecked me, and I posted it without the usual tons of polish. It had to get out. I'm sure there will be disagreements at some points, but I'm pretty damn sure that Jon at least thinks the letter came from Mance. Let me know what you think.
Okay.
So that's it's an interesting take. It's a better explanation of some of the things than most theories.
I agree on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's all right. I'm not saying it, but I agree with it 100%. I'm just saying it's a better explanation of some of the problems with the pink letter and Jon's actions being out of character and so forth than most theories are. So I think there's a lot to say for it. I think it's definitely worth thinking about.
I'm trying to remember the words of the pink letter. There's the pink letter mentions Mance, correct?
The pink letter says it's from Ramsay and that he's made a
Right.
that he's got Mance in a cage, right?
Right. Now that was a in my mind a big driving point that the Wildlings wanted to go is because Mance is in a cage and they can save him. Because in my mind, I mean, granted, they're south of the wall. They owe Jon that. They got food in the belly somewhat. They owe Jon that. But Mance was still the king beyond the wall and was the one that they chose. Now, in that shield hall, are they shifting their allegiance from Mance Rayder to Jon Snow, and that's the one they're choosing? I don't think so. I mean, it could be, but I don't think so.
I do agree that it's a little that the wildlings reaction is a little weird, and that if you take it this way, at least you have some sort of explanation of what's going on with the wildlings. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So bastard was the only word written outside the scroll. No Lord Snow or Jon Snow or Lord Commander, simply bastard. And the letter was sealed with a smear of hard paint wax. You were right to come at once, Jon said. You were right to be afraid. He cracked the seal, flattened the parchment with dread. Your false king is dead, bastard. He and all his host were smashed in 7 days of battle. I have his magic sword. Tell his red whore. Your false king's friends are dead. Their heads upon the walls of Winterfell. Come see them, bastard. Your false king lied, and so did you. You told the world you burned the king beyond the wall. Instead, you sent it to Winterfell to steal my bride from me. I will have my bride back. I want the false king's queen. I want his daughter and his red witch. I want his wildling princess. I want his little prince, the wildling babe. And I want my reek. Send them to me, bastard. I will not trouble you with your black crows. Keep them for me, and I will cut your bastard's heart. Cut out your bastard's heart and eat it. It was signed. Ramsay Snow, True over the phone. John Greenwood covers the pink letter in Days, House with the Red Door, and Lemon Trees in 2 separate videos, both about 3 hours long. He's really good at breaking it down. Forensic detective. John Greenwood. Okay.
I'll write that down.
Well, I don't want to start anything new, so do we have anything else we want to talk about for the last couple of minutes?
No, I'm good.
All right. Let's wrap up then.
All right. Thank y'all for joining us on Hump Day. Was there a couple of F-bombs in that?
In Kansas and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I've said plenty things worse. I was messing with you. All right. What is we got? Tyrion 8 on Friday. So thank y'all for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you back here on Friday. Y'all have fun. Take care and enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see y'all Friday. Bye. Bye, Richard.